So, what if I told you there's a global alliance of political parties operating mostly under the radar that critics say is literally writing the playbook for a new kind of power politics? Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the International Democracy Union, or the IDU. On paper, the IDU is a club for more than 80 center-right political parties from all over the world, like the US Republican Party or the UK's Conservative Party. Their stated goal is to promote democracy and center-right policies. Seems simple enough, right? But here is where things start to get tricky. What happens when pushing for a specific political agenda actually starts to clash with the core principles of democracy itself? This is the central question critics are asking. To really understand what's going on with the IDU today, you have to look at a key moment back in 2018, the Harper shift. Before former Canadian PM Stephen Harper took over as chairman, the IDU was seen as mostly a diplomatic talking shop. Critics argue that under his leadership, it morphed into an active strategic hub for building and holding on to conservative power around the world. How'd that happen? The IDU amped up its campaigning seminars that share a very modern political toolkit, sophisticated voter micro-targeting, cutting-edge fundraising strategies, and narrative management, a term critics say masks the use of AI and digital disinformation to control the story. A clear example was in July 2023, when Harper met with Hungary's Viktor Orban. Despite international concern about democracy eroding in Hungary, Harper praised the collaboration between their parties. For critics, this was a red flag signaling that political alliances were now more important than democratic principles. What does this look like on the ground? Critics argue it adds up to a kind of playbook, a set of strategies member parties are using to grab power and keep it, often by stretching democratic norms. They point to countries like Turkey, Hungary, and India. Consider Turkish President Erdogan, whose party has links to the IDU's regional networks. He once said, "Democracy is like a tram. You ride it until you arrive at your destination, then you step off." Critics say that, quote, perfectly captures the philosophy. Democracy is just the vehicle you use to get power. The result? Freedom House officially downgraded Turkey's status to not free, citing jailed journalists, taking over the courts, and using state resources to rig elections under an IDU-affiliated party. In Hungary, the ruling Fidesz party has overseen a slide into what scientists call an electoral autocracy. Researchers say there's a three-step method: gerrymander the maps, use voter tourism, busing supporters into key districts, and achieve a two-thirds supermajority with less than half of the country's actual votes. Over in India, the ruling BJP is a major player in the IDU. Researchers describe a playbook there that involves the corporate capture of media outlets and the deployment of IT cells, huge online armies of bots designed to intimidate political opponents. The criticism goes even further. Some allege the IDU influences international politics, especially in Europe, acting as a Trojan horse. This blew up in 2026 when journalists dropped an investigation called Warborn in the USA. It claimed the IDU was connected to a push for deregulation inside the EU. The report alleges the IDU is a secret back channel allowing American corporate interests to influence European policy through allied IDU member parties already inside the system. It names Swedish MEP Jörgen Warborn, alleging he used IDU-funded trips to Washington to coordinate a strategy to weaken and dismantle the EU's Green Deal climate policy. When you put all of this together, you see two different definitions of the IDU. On one hand, the official story, promoting democracy, policy exchange, and global stability. But then there's the reality critics describe: sustaining electoral autocracies, exporting disinformation, and interfering in other countries' elections. This giant gap is at the heart of the controversy. Critics conclude the IDU has become a shadow infrastructure for a global political movement where winning and keeping power through media capture and disinformation is more important than the actual principles of democracy itself. This leaves all of us with a tough question. When does sharing tactics stop being collaboration and start becoming interference? For the critics of the IDU, that line was crossed a long time ago. The question for the rest of us is, where do we draw it? Subscribe to Truth Over Tribalism for more videos like this.